know that most of what you've seen, read, or heard about Billy the Kid is untrue? My name is Gail Cooper. I'm a medical doctor and forensic psychiatrist. My specialty is murder case consultation for the defense. For 20 years, I've used my expertise to uncover the real Billy the Kid. Researching over 40,000 pages of archival documents and books, I've written the revisionist history. It's shocking, it's liberating, and I've written books demolishing the hoaxes, hijacking the history. My talks will share with you what I've found. Cover-ups, misinformation, and fakery, to use Old West lingo, will bite the dust. This talk is an overview of the Brushy Bill Hoax'S Bible, Alias, Billy the Kid. The information is from my book, Cracking the Billy the Kid Imposter Hoax of Brushy Bill Roberts. On November 30th, 1950, 71-year-old imposter Oliver Pleasant Brushy Bill Roberts failed to trick New Mexico Governor T.J. Mabry into pardoning him as 91-year-old Billy the Kid and died the next month. That pardon hearing is in Talk 53, linked below. With Brushy out of the way, his promoters, William V. Morrison and C.L. Sonneshin, manufactured a better Brushy Bill to continue their hoax in their 1955 book titled Alias, Billy the Kid. Having coached Brushy from 1949 with available sources and visits to historic sites, Morrison had manipulated this mentally disabled man with delusions of Old West identities into tape recording Billy the Kid's pseudo-memories. The hoax's corollary was defaming Sheriff Pat Garrett as an unpunished murderer of an innocent victim instead of Billy the Kid. That necessitated hiding Billy's coroner's jury report and his corpse's many other identifications. Alias, Billy the Kid's quantity of information, built by quantity of labor by Brushy, Morrison, and Sonneshin, was intended to amaze a reader as impossible to fake. But, as will be seen in later talks, it was all faked, scornfully deceiving its naive audience. Hoax mastermind Morrison used English teacher Sonneshin to write Alias, Billy the Kid, though being listed as second author. Its hook of Brushy's special knowledge, unique to Billy the Kid, required also faking his illiteracy to deny his reading up. For the writing, Sonneshin used Morrison's and his own Billy the Kid research. Morrison's recorded interviews of Brushy parroting prompt sources and Brushy's own notes. Sonneshin taunted on the book's cover, "Was he Billy the Kid? If not, who was he?" As shown in talks to follow, Alias, Billy the Kid's hoax unravels when Brushy's special knowledge is traced to publications, many faked as corroborating footnotes, with giveaways of their parroted errors, and when sources ran out, Brushy's confabulations were wrong. Also, physical match to Billy was faked, and only Billy's outlaw myth was used for identity. The result is a surrealistic concoction of historical names and misstated events jumbled with Brushy's fictions. Additionally, The authors falsified documents, forged Brushy's words, faked conspiracy theories, and created false affidavits claiming he was Billy. Alias Billy the Kid, at 136 pages with added photographs, has chapters titled Publisher's Foreword, To the Skeptical, Prologue, Brushy Bill's Story, The Tangled Web, Be He Alive or Be He Dead, in black and white, epilogue, and appendices. The hoaxing fails. Brushy exhibited no special knowledge separate from traceable coaching sources. He had no match with real Billy's birth, family history, literacy and letters, Spanish fluency, and biculturalism. Absent was intimate information from real Billy's life. His name, his Penasco River Ranch, his deputizing the regulators, the San Patricio Massacre, the Lincoln County War freedom fight against the Santa Fe Ring, his deposition, his pardon bargain, and court testimonies, his near killing by Joe Grant, his Secret Service pursuit with possible second pardon, his anti-ring guerrilla rustling, and his true love, Paulita Maxwell. The book's errors are total, with one so fatal that it laid bare the hoax's dirty underpinnings when later Brushy-believing authors, new hoaxers, and my research revealed that terminating mistake and its cover-up right at the death scene intended to clinch Brushy as surviving Billy. Brushy's hoax creators are exposed in talks of their own. William V. Morrison, in talk 49 linked below, was a con artist salesman impersonating a lawyer and historian who coached Brushy by prompting, touring, and rehearsing, and wrote the fake affidavits claiming Brushy was Billy the Kid. C.L. Sonishin, in talk 50 linked below, was an English teacher and slipshod amateur historian who forged Brushy's words as needed, added fake conspiracy theories, and hid debunking evidence as he sought to claim, with apparently cynical attitude, that history was nothing but myth anyway. The talks to follow debunk Alias Billy the Kid's 100% hoaxing. But there's more to that story. How has the Brushy Bill hoax gathered dupes for 71 years, immune to the ridicule of all legitimate historians? Mark Twain offered, "The most outrageous lies that can be invented will find believers if a man only tells them with all his might." Brushy, Morrison, and Sonishin lied mightily. And the hoax's first major dupe, Edward Beverly E.B. Mann, director of the University of New Mexico Press, provided the second clue. He's in talk 56 linked below. In 1954, he picked Alias Billy the Kid for publication. In a July 1981 Field and Stream magazine article titled Billy the Kid, with Brushy still being Billy to him, he wrote, "It's a great story." Unwavering lies creating a great story yielded this spectacular scam. Its soundbite by 21st century Brushy hoaxers was, "History is not as written." The hoax became an alternative reality, like a cult. Believers, lured by its contrarian stance, were brainwashed that historians hid the truth, as stated by Brushy. In psychology, that's called cognitive dissonance. its mental discomfort from clashing information. It made the dupes avoid history books contradicting the hoax. But there's more to the seductive Brushy Bill hoax. To Morrison goes credit for formulating the great story of the Old West's most famous outlaw surviving death, then seeking a pardon in the next century. But credit for its viral contagion goes to Sanderson's Alias, Billy the Kid. Though no historian, he could mimic one, and being an English teacher and author of books for lay people, he excelled in simple, high-impact writing. Think about it. Alias Billy the Kid is only 136 pages of big font, with pages further shortened by footnotes. That's its brilliance. It looks like a history book, but it's pulp fiction. And repeated throughout are fake testimonials and conspiracy theories backing the hoax. Thus, the publisher's foreword has dupe publisher E.B. Mann awed by Brushy's special knowledge. To the skeptical, fakes neutral Sanderson just letting Brushy be his own proof. Prologue spins Morrison's finding Brushy, being convinced by his special knowledge, then seeing him unjustly denied the pardon as Billy. Brushy Bill's story, about a third of the book at 44 pages, is the Hoax'S heart. It's better Brushy gets a 20-year time-regressed genealogy to hide that he was under 2 at Billy's death. His coached recordings are paraphrased with just token quotes added to claim his special knowledge without clue as to their fatal errors or that Sanderson had forged real Brushy's words to better match Billy Bonney. Brushy's other delusional personas are recycled for his life after Billy's shooting. The tangled web makes up why Brushy was Billy. Be he alive or be he dead floats a convoluted fake conspiracy theory denying the existence of Billy's coroner's jury report. In black and white, defames Pat Garrett as dishonest to fake plausibility that he'd murder an innocent man and hide it with a bogus coroner's jury report to collect the reward. Epilogue reruns the special knowledge claim, fabricates a Santa Fe ring conspiracy to hide Billy's survival, and calls Brushy brave in admitting to being Billy the Kid. Appendices has real Billy's documents, 5 fake affidavits that Brushy was Billy, and a bit of a Brushy interview to end the book with a special knowledge bang, though it's actually all prompt errors. And since this isn't a real history book, there's no bibliography. But there's a 7-page insert of glossy photos between pages 58 and 59. They mix Brushy and Billy with added pictures of Lincoln and Fort Sumner. Silly claims are made. A page titled A Study in Ears is to show that Brushy's, quote, protruding left ear matched Billy's. That ploy came from ignorance that Billy's tintype was right to left reversed, so his right ear is pushed out, and not by anatomical weirdness, but by his rakishly tilted hat brim. As useful for hoax busting as what's in Alias Billy the Kid is what Sanderson kept out to fake his better Brushy. He tried to hide real Brushy's fatal flubs, like those which got him an imposter label in his pardon hearing, though, as we'll see in later talks, historically ignorant Sanderson accidentally left in many. though Sonneshin's editing was secret, it was inadvertently revealed by Brushy backing author W.C. Jameson in his 2012 book, Billy the Kid, The Lost Tapes. In debunking Alias Billy the Kid in talks to come, the fix-ups will be exposed. But for this overview, good examples come from Sonneshin's collected papers, transcript pages, and typed notes of Brushy's Morrison interviews. They reveal Sonneshin's sly outtakes when confabulating real Brushy headed wildly off the tracks into imposter land. Here are examples of Brushy's expurgated quotes with my commentary. The following quotes are in his interview on June 16, 1949 in Hyco, Texas. Brushy stated, "I worked for John Maxwell at Fort Sumner a short time." It was Peter Maxwell, and real Billy didn't work for him. Brushy stated, "Jesse James knew Tunstall. He told Jesse about a place in England. Jesse went over there but didn't buy it. They were friends, and I guess that is the reason I like Tunstall." Jesse James is not part of the history. Brushy stated, "I got my 6-shooter off Brady's body that day of the shooting. He took it when he arrested us at 7 Rivers a short time before. We got out on bond, but he said he didn't have that one 6-shooter, a .44 single action with pearl handle grips. But he gave me the .44 with the wooden handles. I got it, though, when he fell there on the street dead, and I got his cartridge belt, too." In reality, on February 20th, 1878, Brady arrested deputized regulators Billy and Fred Waite and town constable Atanasio Martinez in Lincoln, not 7 Rivers, 83 miles to the southeast. Brady had no legal justification for the arrest. He was just blocking their arresting of John Tunstall's murderers. At the arrest, Brady confiscated Billy's Winchester .73 carbine, then kept it. There was no bond set. Brady simply released them on February 22nd after Tunstall's funeral was over. And at the regulators' April 1st ambush of Sheriff Brady and his deputies, Billy retrieved his Winchester .73 carbine from his corpse. Brushy's tale of revolvers shows his garrulous confabulating when his sources ran out. Brushy stated, "Salmon fought on our side in that cattle business in '78. I knew him in '77. He was always in trouble, and my men helped him. Hines knew him, too." Outlaw John Selman is not part of that history. Brushy, citing my men, used the outlaw myth of Billy having a gang, and Jim Hines was Brushy's real friend. Hines impersonated Lincoln County outlaw Jesse Evans and was one of William V. Morrison's Old West imposter contacts. Brushy stated, "Jesse James almost killed Pepin. He didn't want to get mixed up in the war, though. Jesse was in Lincoln when Chapman was killed. Dalton can tell you the same thing." In fact, Jesse James isn't in that history. Brushy linked him to the Houston Chapman killing from his prompt of Lew Wallace's June 8, 1902 New York World Magazine Outlaw Myth article titled "General Lew Wallace Writes a Romance of Billy the Kid." The article is in Morrison's research notes, now in Sonishin's collected papers. In the article, Lew Wallace substituted famous Jesse James for actual murderer Jesse Evans. Wallace's fabrication stated, "Shortly before I had become governor of New Mexico, Chapman, a young attorney in Lincoln, had been murdered. Half a dozen men were arrested, accused of the crime. Among them was Jesse James." Brushy's cited Dalton is J. Frank Dalton, Brushy's friend and a Jesse James impersonator whom Brushy backed on radio and in the press in 1949 and 1950. Dalton was also one of the Old West imposters William V. Morrison promoted. This example is in Brushy's interview on August 18, 1949, in Carrizozo and Lincoln, New Mexico. Brushy stated, "General Wallace was sent out here by the President of the U.S., McKinley." In fact, it was President Rutherford B. Hayes, as Billy knew, since his deposition of June 8, 1878 about Tunstall's murder was indirectly for him. Since Brushy was in the generation after Billy, Hayes was unknown, but President William McKinley, assassinated on September 14, 1901, when Brushy was 22, would have been remembered. This example is from Brushy's undated notes. Brushy stated, "In the spring of 1891, I got a job catching Shetland ponies on Shetland Island belonging to England. Took along 5 cowhands and we caught 100 head. Queen Victoria was Queen of England. She invited us over to England as she wanted to see a Texas cowboy. We had a nice time over there for 4 days, dancing and feasting all the time." This is Brushy being way off the rails. This example is a note titled 1940 and signed Brushy Bill Roberts. Written before Morrison's coaching, it had a different fake genealogy with a non-abusive father named Al Roberts, who was an Indian fighter and Civil War hero. Brushy's fabricated Billy the Kid father was abusive John Henry J.H. Wild Henry Two-Gun Roberts. Brushy stated, "I commenced with Buffalo Bill in 1885. I rode with Pawnee Bill in the Wild West show. Also, I rode with Bud Schnell's Wild West show, the Miller Brothers Wild West show, which came from the 101 Ranch. I rode with Bugger Red in his Wild West show. During the time I owned my own show, I had some of the best riders in the world, but many times in conversation they would remark, 'The old boss can beat any of us.' Buffalo Bill was the first man to put up a Wild West show. Pawnee Bill was next. Brushy Bill was the next man to put up a Wild West show. I put up one in 1895, and I followed the Wild West business 25 years before I quit." For Alias Billy the Kid, Sonishin had abusive John Henry J.H. Roberts as Brushy's father and shortened his absurd list to only Buffalo Bill and Pawnee Bill. Sonishin also hid Brushy's prompt sources by selectively quoting from his taped interviews, but Morrison's partial transcripts of those interviews in Sonishin's collected papers reveal Brushy's near verbatim repeating of entire Billy letters to fake special knowledge, implying he was reading from Morrison's Lincoln Museum copies and paraphrasing. Newspaper articles got the same treatment. Here are examples of Brushy's full quotes with my commentary. These examples are from Brushy's August 18, 1949 interview in Carrizozo and Lincoln, New Mexico. Brushy stated, "I heard the governor offered $1,000 for me to come in and testify. I wrote and told him that I would come in and testify if he would annul those indictments against me." Note that Brushy misunderstood the $1,000 reward offer as a payment to him as Billy for testifying when it was a reward for Billy's capture. Real Billy's letter to Lew Wallace of March 13, 1879 stated, "I have heard that you would give $1,000 for my body, which as I can understand it means alive, as a witness. If it is in your power to annul those indictments, I hope you will do so as to give me a chance to explain." Brushy stated, "While we were at Great Houses, we were surrounded by a posse. We was. They sent in Carlyle to get us to surrender. He had no warrant. I just told him it amounted to a mob violence, and we didn't intend to be mobbed, not just yet anyhow. His posse had Great House with them. When they commenced shooting out there, Carlyle got scared, and he jumped out the window. As he went through the window, they shot him down without warning. They thought it was me making my escape, but they got fooled that time. We were going to make Carlyle ride out with us after dark. They left, and we got out that night. The next day they came back and burned down the house, thinking we were inside." Billy's letter to Lew Wallace of December 12, 1880 stated, "After mine and Billy Wilson's horses were killed at Coyote Spring, we both made our way to a station 40 miles from the Oaks, kept by Mr. Greathouse. When I got up the next morning, the house was surrounded by an outfit led by one Carlyle, who had come into the house and demanded a surrender. I asked for their papers, warrants, and they had none, so I concluded that it amounted to nothing more than a mob, and told Carlyle that he would have to stay in the house and lead the way out that night. Soon after, a note was brought in stating that if Carlyle did not come out inside of 5 minutes, they would kill the station keeper, Greathouse, who had left the house and was with them. In a short time, a shot was fired on the outside, and Carlyle, thinking Greathouse was killed, jumped through the window, breaking the sash as he went, and was killed by his own party, they thinking it was me trying to make my escape. The party then withdrew. They returned the next day and burned an old man named Spencer's house and Greathouse's also." Note that Brushy had done his usual elaboration by making up that they burned down the house, quote, "thinking we were inside." Brushy stated about the Stinking Springs capture, "We planned to ride out after dark and started to leave the horses inside the doorway. They shot a horse, and he fell dead in the doorway. My mare wouldn't jump over a dead horse, so we gave up on the idea. I had intended to ride my mare out on her side, like the Cheyenne Indians taught me in my boyhood days. I would have ridden out shooting if that dead horse had not fell over in the opening." This paraphrases a December 28, 1880 Las Vegas Gazette interview of captured Billy, who was quoted. If it had not been for the dead horse in the doorway, I wouldn't be here in Las Vegas. I would have ridden out on my bay mare and taken my chances of escaping. But I couldn't ride over that, for she would have jumped back and I would have got it in the head. It also shows Brushy's elaboration of being taught to ride by Indians, but he was unaware that the narrow, doorless opening in that rock cabin had no room for the sideways riding in his fiction. So, the last time real Brushy was actually seen by the public was at his pardon hearing. Better Brushy replaced him in Alias Billy the Kid, then continued to be upgraded by his later authors. That makes Alias Billy the Kid a baseline for exposing later additional dishonest fix-ups of Brushy's words. In the talks to follow, I'll be Alias Billy the Kid's critic, but without underestimating its hoaxing skill or belittling its dupes who trusted that they were getting the truth about an astounding old man from a Harvard historian named Dr. Sonneshin and an investigative researcher named Attorney Morrison.